Here, sailing over here somewhere, I think. You have the Roman Empire somewhere over here, I think. I'm not sure exactly. Hey everybody, what's going on? Trey Griggs here, Beta Consulting Group, and you are here for episode 99 of Standing Out, a daily podcast about sales, marketing, leadership. This is our last podcast with only 2 digits because tomorrow is episode 100. Can't wait for that. Make sure you come back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Central for episode 100. We're going to celebrate 100 episodes here of Standing Out. We're going to have some giveaways. My good friend Charlie Safro is going to be guest hosting and interviewing me. So I get to flip the tables and be on the other side this time, which will be a lot of fun to tell the story of this, some highlights that we've had. And again, we're going to have some giveaways. So make sure you come back and be a part of the community in the comments section and win some of those giveaways. Some great swag like what we have here, the Standing Out water bottle, and many other great things from our swag store. And so it's going to be an exciting episode tomorrow. We've had an awesome week of shows this week, and it's going to continue. Yesterday, had a great conversation with my good friend Robin Hyra. Today, we got Liz Wayne from Able Transport coming on. Again, tomorrow, Charlie's going to be on. The only guy this week, Randy Fox, he's going to be on Thursday. He's a keynote speaker and a former NCAA basketball official. Some great stories. And then on Friday, my good friend Nadine Nocero-Tai, we're going to talk marketing and chop it up. It's going to be an awesome show on that day as well. And so make sure you come back every day for an episode of Standing Out at 10:30 a.m. Central. And check us out on our swag store and on our website. Our website's betaconsultinggroup.com. We're all about helping companies tell their stories, messaging, marketing, content creation, in order to create those moments to create emotional connection with your clients and your prospects and your prospective employees. So fill out a form there. We'd love to work with you. And make sure you click on the swag store banner and or on any of the products in our swag store. Go check it out. We're in our grand opening here in the month of July. Use the coupon code BETA-GO to get 30% off your entire order and be a part of our community here, a community of people that are pursuing excellence in everything they do. What we're doing with Standing Out, Word on the Street, Beta Consulting Group, all of that. Grab some great merch and enjoy, and make sure you take a picture of it when you get it and send it to us. We'd love to see that as well. Also want to give a shout out to our sponsor, to TAFS. These are the good guys in freight factoring. They're helping the carriers keep those wheels turning with fuel discounts, tire discounts, small business loans, obviously factoring services, insurance, building a network to help carriers really stay on the road and move the freight. So check them out at TAFS.com. Let them know that Trey sent you, or more importantly, just click on the link that Morgan's going to put in the comments today. That takes you right to our landing page, and you can get started with them today. They'll know that I sent you. So check them out, TAFS.com, the good guys in freight factoring. All right, let's get to our guest today. This is, again, our last show in the double digits, and it is Women in Logistics Week here at Standing Out for the most part, with the exception of Randy Fox, of course. And this woman is playing a huge role in that, especially with organizations like TIA. Can't wait to talk about that. Please welcome to the show my good friend from Able Transport Solutions, Liz Wayne. Liz, what's going on? How are you?
Hey, Trey. Great to see you. Thanks for having me.
I know. Great to have you on the show. Welcome. Great to get a chance to catch up. Last time we spoke, I think it was at TIA back in April in San Diego, which was an awesome show. Had a great time out there, and the energy was unbelievable. I mean, it was a blast of a show. And thank you, Julia Fritz, for being in the comments today. And thanks for the congratulations. We appreciate that. All right. So Liz, before we get started today, for those who may not know who you are, take a moment to tell a little bit about yourself and what you guys are doing at Able Transport.
Yeah, so I'm Liz Wayne, founder and president of Able Transport Solutions. We're a 3PL freight brokerage in Nebraska, currently in Fort Calhoun, a small town outside of Omaha, but we're looking to move to the big city here any day, so much looking forward to that. I started on my own in 2014. By 2015, I kind of saw the need for, my niche and my space, which was kind of flatbed heavy haul.
Yeah.
So at that point, I started hiring people, started talking to the customers, and the rest has been kind of history.
What was that journey like into entrepreneurship? What did you do before that? And what led you to saying, yeah, I think I can do this on my own?
Yeah. So I've been in transportation and logistics since right out of high school. So I started at a local They're
Wow, you're a
asset.
lifer.
I'm
Here.
a lifer, yes. I
Yeah,
know. I
can't get
still
out.
feel too young to say I've been doing this for 20 years. Um, but it is what it is. So, started in an asset-based company. They have a couple small in-house brokerages, kind of worked through the front office, the back office, eventually into operations and brokerage. And then in '08, I had an opportunity to join a startup. So I was like the first employee. I'm
Okay.
not sure we had our occupancy permit yet. So we were kind of waiting on the fire marshal while we're moving a couple of loads. So that was a great experience because I got to learn what it took to get from day one. I think we were probably around 20, 25 million revenue at that point that I left, in 2014. So great opportunity to learn from a couple of amazing companies. And, just eventually, I am an entrepreneur by nature. I was born that way. So eventually just kind of wanted to put my spin on things.
Yeah, no, I completely get it, especially when you're a creator and want to build, when you're a builder, you want to build something that's your own. I completely understand that. And the value of being a part of that startup where it wasn't on you at that point, like the risk wasn't on you, but
Right.
the opportunity to learn was right in front of you. How valuable was that?
Immensely. I mean, I don't know, that I'd be here today without that experience. So it was because the pressures, I was getting a paycheck, right? So it alleviates that pressure there. But yeah, again, I mean, I was their right hand. So it was there to
Yeah.
jump through all the things and even just to observe what was important to them, and just even things, lines of credit and other things that some businesses don't think about when they get started. When you're there on day one, you kind of have the advantage of seeing all that nitty gritty stuff.
Yeah, but it is a different feel from when you're there. I mean, it's risky to join a startup, but when you're there getting a paycheck versus dishing out the paychecks, that's a totally different feeling.
Totally different feeling.
Little more scary whenever you're the one that's responsible for everybody else's livelihood. But I'm sure that the confidence you got just from seeing it not only from day one, but actually seeing it grow, like this is possible. These are the steps that you take. And you probably just copied a lot of that playbook, I would imagine.
Yeah, and in our industry, I think people in freight brokerage would be foolish to get out here and try to recreate the wheel. So I understand where technology recreates parts of the wheel, and that I encourage, and we should move in that direction. But the overall model in that, I mean, it's definitely like worked its kinks out over the years. I mean, because this is a fairly new industry.
Relatively,
Technically,
yeah. Right.
computers are
Right.
older than freight brokers. So
Right.
I think a lot of the things that didn't work have kind of worked themselves out. And I really don't encourage people to go out and recreate the wheel. Take what works, take what you know, and put your spin on it and do better.
Yeah, I love that. And just being willing to learn and be coachable. Hey, what worked, what didn't work, and then, take that and make it work. I think a lot of, I always think in terms of athletes. And when you think of like great athletes like Kobe Bryant, he said he'd always take something from Michael Jordan's game. In fact, he took a lot from Michael Jordan's game, but then take a little bit from all these other players and try to combine it into who he is really a winning formula. It's really hard to go wrong when you steal from the best, what they're doing and how they're doing it. And steal is a strong word. Borrow, maybe beg,
It
borrow,
is.
and steal. I
It
was a
is.
teacher. I was a
Hey,
teacher, so we would say beg, borrow, and steal, right? I mean, you
right.
take everything. There's nothing new under the sun. That's for sure. All right.
Imitation is
So
the
yeah, go ahead.
sincerest form of flattery. Let's
That's
put it
right.
that way. We're not
Exactly.
stealing, or we just don't.
100%. Imitate. Way better word. Imitating. I'm going to use that word now. Way better word. Imitating. Very good. So let me ask you this question though. So as a female in logistics, you started early on. You've been in for a long time. Did you ever feel that stigma? Because in logistics, women make up less than 10% of the workforce in logistics and in trucking. Was there ever that stigma being in the industry, or did it always just feel natural, like this is where I belong, and you never really had any issues? What's been your experience as a woman in logistics?
You know, on my day to day for the companies I worked for. So my first boss in the industry was a woman. I definitely went home on my first day at that job like I want to be her. Don't know who she is. Don't know
It's
what
so
she
great to
does.
see role models that look like you, right? I mean, I think that's powerful.
And so I always had that, and then not so much at the startup. But I played a very important role at the startup. Always felt so in my day to day. I never felt it, but like just Blythe and I'll talk about how the line at conference gets longer. So my first TIA conference was the restroom line. That is so. My first conference was in '09, and I mean I would say it was well under 5% women. And so if you
Yeah.
go
Oh,
this
yeah.
year, now it's more like 20 to 25%. And so I see that change. Like when we come together every year, I see it there definitely. I've never, personally felt it, but I have, when I go to carrier summits and certain things. And I've been the only woman in a large logistics meeting a number of times, but it never it never bothered me. It never slowed me down, I don't think.
Well, I can imagine from the very beginning. I mean, just hearing your story today, some things I've never knew about you before, which is fascinating. You had a female show you the way, like, "Hey, this is cool in logistics to do this." You wanted to be them. You had, leaders who took you under their wing and showed you how they ran their business, and had that mentorship, which is just so critical. I mean, you've got to pinch yourself occasionally, just the path that you've been able to take, and what you've been able to learn to get you where you are today, which is exciting. I think it's so cool. How do you think about that in terms of when you see new people come into the industry or come into your company, when you hire new people, how does that impact your leadership with them?
I was just thinking about this last week, and actually, I probably can do a better job of finding my high potential people. You know what I mean? And so we're still a small business. So are there roles and job descriptions that everybody, like, you can't go create five new positions because it's just, you can't grow that way, but whether it be through special projects or assignments or task forces, you know what I mean? I definitely, because they're everywhere, and they're all over my organization, they're all over everywhere. I really hate when I hear people mock millennials and this and that. It drives me crazy because it's like, I would say I experienced ageism more than sexism in my career because I was very young and I wanted to
Yeah.
take it all on. And coming, if somebody had more experience, they were probably cautious of that, like I might be now. You know what I mean? But it's
Yeah.
important to find those people in your organization and to give them some responsibility and some leverage, maybe even if you don't have a new role for them, but in addition to their current role, because yeah, I mean, there's so much to gain from the young people.
Yeah, oh, 100%. And I hate it when they categorize people as, oh, millennials, and just kind of blanket them with, because there's millennials that are hard workers, that are very creative. In fact, I think in many ways somewhat more ingenuitive and innovative than what we were growing up. They've grown up with technology and seen the possibilities, and I think they have a different imagination in some of those ways. And Holly says that it's definitely changing. TI, yes, it is, Holly. And TMSA was the same way. We were at TMSA, same thing. Brian
Mhm.
says, I worked 18 years on railroad. My first boss was a woman, and she was my favorite mentor. My first two sales leaders were women, and they were phenomenal. They were so great. Melissa White and Janice Compton out of DAT, Melissa White at Archetype. Just great experiences. So Brian, I echo that with you as well. So I want to switch to that to talk about women in logistics with TIA. So you have taken initiative recently. Ann Rinke is now running TIA. She's phenomenal as well. And she asked you recently to kind of pick up an initiative that had kind of not fallen by the wayside, but certainly had lost some momentum. Talk a little bit about what you're doing with that.
Yeah, so just about 6 months ago or so, we rebooted the Women in Logistics Committee for the TIA. And really, we just want a place for women in the industry to meet mentors, meet mentees, really be there for each other, a place to connect. If there are any women in the industry who are in that boat where they're always the only woman in the room or at the table or in these meetings, we want them to have a place that they can come and be with us. But also, just in the same way I just talked about my first boss, like seeing is believing, right? So once a quarter, we profile a successful woman in logistics and really just share their story and all that. So today, this afternoon, will be Erin Van Zeeland. So if you are a TIA
Love
member,
Aaron Van Zeeland. Yeah.
check in with us at 3 o'clock Eastern. Otherwise, just sign up and you'll get it later. But so we do that really we all have very similar journeys and starts in the industry. And I can't say any of them are like, oh my God, we came out of this prestige business school and knew this was what we were supposed to do and got our, like, that's not how it goes. And so that should be inspiring to anybody in the industry trying to find their way in that we all started somewhere. It's very fun to hear these stories. It's awesome. And then one of the next things we'll do as a committee is work on recruiting efforts. So I am looking for volunteers in that, where we put on in-person and virtual just presentations. We want to introduce the 3PL industry in colleges, high schools, sororities, even, even students getting their supply chain degree and stuff don't know our space here. They don't know our
Yeah,
industry. I
right,
just
right.
talked to the supply chain club at K-State and they're like, "What's a freight broker?" And I'm like, "Wait,
Right.
how do you not know? Let's talk about this." But it's an exciting industry. People should be excited about it. And I think we have an obligation to get out here and talk about it.
It is, and we definitely don't tell enough stories. We don't market our industry and the opportunities very well. I think the same thing is true for truck drivers. We don't market the opportunity to drive a truck and what that would be like and how much money they can make and those types of stories. We just don't tell them very well. But to go back to the TIA, I remember the Women in Logistics luncheon this year at TIA was absolutely packed. I didn't get a chance to go because I was hosting the Young Executives luncheon, which was not as packed. They were significantly more, maybe three times as more. I know you guys stole our thunder, but no, it was great to see a conference room, a ballroom, really full of women in logistics celebrating what you guys are doing in the industry, which is just awesome. So, just a shout out to everybody out there. If you're looking to get involved, make sure you reach out to Liz and help out with recruiting and things like that. Speaking of which, before we go any further, what's the best way for people to connect with you?
Probably LinkedIn.
Yeah, just connect and DM. Yep.
Yep.
It's
I'm
it's so
definitely.
powerful. It's the best way. Yep.
It
And
is. You've
everybody,
done a great job with it.
well, we're working on it. I don't think that people value it as much as they should. I mean, it's so valuable, and I think people are just starting to tap into it. That's the way it feels. That people are just starting to tap into it and not really realizing the full potential of LinkedIn and what it can do for you, for a personal brand, for a corporate brand, for sales, especially. There's so many opportunities to connect on that. Pause for just one moment, everybody. You're watching episode 99 of Standing Out with Liz Wayne, the last double-digit episode, and we're coming to you today. I forgot to mention this from Logix here in Springfield. My good friend John Calloway giving us his crib so we could bring the show to you today as well. And tomorrow is episode 100. Very excited about that. We're going to have Charlie Safro on the show tomorrow. It's going to be an incredible event. Really looking forward to that. So make sure you come back tomorrow at 10:30. All right. So Liz, so talk to me about sales and marketing. Let's talk LinkedIn a little bit. You are a salesperson at heart. That's really who you are. Talk a little bit about, like your thoughts on sales and marketing in this industry and using LinkedIn and just some of those things. So I know it sounds like you want to get back into sales.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely where I have the most fun, and I'm terrible at marketing, but if I were good at it, it's where I'd have my fun. Um, I think, I guess, from the old freight brokerage world where it's like you eat what you kill, it's the
Yeah.
nuts to bolts, you know what I mean? You had to be really good at sales. And so we sort of started that last shop, kind of under that premise. And I had a friend who I hired from high school. He was working for me over there. And he thought he was such a better salesperson, and now he would be considered like a schmoozer. Like maybe so
A
maybe
smooth
he could
talker.
sell more stuff. Maybe he could sell used. I don't know. Like he was just, and he always, would tell me like I wasn't a good salesperson, and we'd have this internal
What a
chit
jerk. God, what's wrong with that guy?
we were friends. We were very good friends, and we have this competitive, like talk smack relationship. So it was fine. But it's like, I don't know. I don't know that your style would sell me. So one time we went
Yeah.
on an appointment together and we left or whatever. And he's like, I finally get it, and you instill confidence. So when people buy from you, they feel that you've instilled confidence and so I think LinkedIn just gives you such an opportunity to do that, and I don't have nearly the time right now that I want to, but my goal, if I could, would be like, I want to hit people with 5 credible things that affect their job before I call them, and
Yeah.
LinkedIn
Oh,
is just such
100%.
a powerful way to do that. I've
Yeah.
never,
You can not only
that's,
connect with prospects, but you can educate them it's a much more efficient way than probably any time before. And that's true on LinkedIn. That's true wherever they live. Some people live on Facebook. A lot of carriers live on Facebook. A lot of millennials live on TikTok and Instagram. So from a recruiting standpoint, you can talk a lot about your company and have them get to know you before they ever apply or think about working for your company. Social media is just so powerful when it comes to getting your message out there, no matter what the purpose is, whether you're selling for recruiting or selling for clients. It's just amazing, what you can
yeah.
do on there. And I love what you just said. If you could give 5 pieces of content before they ever meet you, I mean, that's gold,
Yeah, and that would be, I guess, how I sell is just try to instill confidence in us as a solution, and just it's all about credibility. Like I'll never go in and schmooze somebody. I couldn't because just the type of personality I am, I wear it all on my sleeve all day long. So it wouldn't even be possible for me.
Yeah, yeah, I've got some relatives in sales that are schmoozers, and the kind of people that they say they could, you could sell ice to an Eskimo, which I always thought was stupid because Eskimos don't need ice. They
No.
they need a blanket.
Right. You
So
need to do better at targeting your market. Go sell
that's
ice to
right.
somewhere
That's
else.
right. You're not actually solving a problem by selling ice to an Eskimo unless they just need it. But anyway, well, that's neither here nor there. But it's good. What's the difference in your mind between founder-led sales and when you're just selling for a company? Because you've done a little bit of both. What's the difference in those two?
Gosh, I'm working through that in my head right now because we've just started with outside sales last year, just one person, and now someone else is
Yeah,
going out into that role. We've never had to sell, or I've done all the selling, for the most part. So I'm
yeah,
going through that in my head right now. I think as a founder and an owner, you definitely have more of a connection to like what makes your company unique, and a lot of our things are, process steps that I believe bring value to the shipper, the receiver. And it's like, if someone has never done that part of it and done the whole job, can they sell that process and those steps in the same way? And that's our job to make sure that they're trained up on the company, that they're selling and representing. But it's definitely it's easier to come from a place of passion as the founder. Like
yeah.
people feel that from me, and I don't know how someone else could emulate that, and I know I never did for anybody else.
Yeah, founders get to own the story in a way that others can't, and just be able to tell that story in a passionate way. And Julie said, "Congrats, Liz, impressive," which it is. But yeah, founders get the chance to own the story and have the emotion behind it in a way that others don't. And I think some founders struggle with that a little bit, especially if they're not salespeople. They tend to struggle with that. But founders definitely have the passion and the experience of their story more than anybody else. But it's important too. I think about this, like even for your sales team, they need to know that story. They
Yeah.
need to know the founder story and communicate that story when they're doing it, because there's so much power in that journey and in that story of how did we get to where we are? How did we get to this point? And why are we doing what we're doing? So I love that. I love that. What's your thought around, you said you started with an outside sales team as a founder, as the owner, you want to do sales, but you also want to support and really encourage them. What's that balance between making the time to do sales yourself, but also just making the time to train them and support them in a way that's really beneficial? How do you kind of balance that time?
What I think it's going to have to be is, I mean, I'm not calling on customers and I'm there to back them up. So, I can, as they catch fish, I can coach them. And, when they hit a whale, I'm there with them, is kind of how I look at the next phase.
Yeah, it's exciting when I like it when founders are involved in sales and helping in that part of the process. I know at some point the time management gets to the point where you really can't do as much as maybe you'd want to do unless that's really your thing. But I love it when founders are a part and they can kind of tell those stories and back their team up and help them train them through the process. I think that's so critical to be a part of that and kind of handhold them, walk them along the way, and then once they're ready to run, you can get them off and running, which is pretty cool. Let me ask you this question. I want to get back to our industry and women in logistics real quick. Because you're doing a lot of work with that. You're working on the recruiting side of things. Why do you think we have not? I know that on the logistics sides, especially, we've done a much better job. But like on the driver's side, why do you think we've had such a trouble, a hassle's the wrong word, challenge? That's probably the right word. Getting women involved in trucking and driving.
So, I mean, I think there's a lot of reasons. I mean, women, even though things at home are more evenly split than they were even just a generation or two ago, like the women still have to carry and birth the babies. I mean, right there, that makes it hard to be on the road, right?
Yeah.
Other with driving, there's physical constraints. We just talked about the safety, women being safe on the road and having what they need, for parking and this and that. So I do LLC, with Charlie, Safro, Bly, the whole, Christy and
Tell everybody
Nicole.
what LLC is. Some people
So
don't know what that is.
LLC is Ladies Leadership Coalition. and we have a great time. We do a lot. So I'm hosting Ingrid Brown for Driver Appreciation Week.
Oh, she's awesome. Yeah.
Yes. And so we're going to be talking about this. So I think she's going to have a much better answer than I do, because this is something she works hard for. But I think there are actual constraints that keep women, like real concerns that keep women from over the road driving positions. I don't think there's any of those constraints in the 3PL or logistics industry. So we have no excuse on the non asset side. I do think, though, with the increase of final mile and as retail changes everything, I think there's more opportunity for women to enter professional driving positions, because you can stay closer to home. You can drive a smaller rig. I don't want to be stereotypical, but I know I'm not signing up to drive something 75 feet long, you know? Um, and so I think that will all help. But really, in the 3PL space, there's no excuse. We don't have physical constraints, safety concerns to worry about. We need more women ASAP.
Yeah, 100%. And with e-commerce changing the game and distribution centers being located much closer to cities, those city drivers, those daily drivers, being more regional within 200 miles is going to become it is a huge need already. It's only going to grow. And so
Mhm.
I think that's also part of us telling the story. I think sometimes when we talk truck drivers, that first thought is over the road or going long haul, and we don't, show off all the jobs that are right there in their cities that are local. They go, they pick up, they go deliver during the day, and they go back home at night. And that's not available. We don't. That story is not available right now. We're not telling that story very well, and that's
Right. And
unfortunate.
we
But
should, because the ability for a man or a woman, the ability to be at home with your family is probably the number one thing that makes professional driving unattractive. You know what I mean? So
mhm.
there are those jobs. And if we can, and final mile will only increase those jobs, where people can have both. They can have the profession and be at home with the kids. So I think that's a lot of it right there.
Yeah, and I think you're seeing that across the board, regardless of gender. Men want to be home more with their families as well. It just seems like that's become a real big push. It used to be driving was a lifestyle, like go over the road, and now I think people really want to be home on the most part. Obviously, some don't, but still, it's a big push. So I think that's going to change the game, and hopefully, we can tell better stories, and get
Hmm.
more women involved, which would be really great. So, what's on the horizon for Able Transport? You guys have a move coming up to the big city of Omaha, home of the
Yes.
College World Series. Great city, love Omaha. When's that occurring, and what kind of led to that?
Any day. It's occurring probably in a couple weeks here. And so I wish I could have said that I dreamed up this tract, 7 years ago, but I didn't. And so we've evolved into this plan and that. And so we've been constrained by space. We've also had like some phone and internet constraints being in a small town. So,
Mm.
um, I mean, it's a big move for us. We're moving from about 4,000 square feet to 22,000 square feet.
Whew, that's a
So
jump. Yeah.
we've at time had trouble recruiting here, and so the new space is built out with employees in mind. We've got massage chairs, oxygen bars, fitness center, showers. It
Did
is
you
going
say
to be,
oxygen bars?
yes.
So like cans of oxygen, like
No,
oxygen
so you're
bars?
gonna plug in. Everybody will have their own mask, and you can put your essential oils. I don't know. Did you ever go to the mall when they used to have these setups at the mall?
I apparently missed that whole era.
Yeah, so it's good for just for your mental state, for a recharge. They say like if you can't get a nap, do like 15 minutes of oxygen therapy, it's a thing. So
Okay. I got a
um
lot to learn.
yeah, so
Yeah, very interesting.
we'll be able to recruit. We've sort of had to slow business growth to some extent because we haven't had room, and our all we take to the marketplace being non-assets is people. So, it'll be great. We'll be set up. So that's what's coming for us this year. And then we'll start digging into next year.
That's it. So one last question. We're running up against time here. It goes so fast. This flies by. What was the decision to invest in office space as opposed to hiring remote and having people work more remote, which a lot of people are doing right now?
Yeah, and so we have a few team members in Columbia, but really just I like the buzz of a freight brokerage floor. I tell my people, like, I want to see the data and I want to see the reports, but I want to see it, hear it, feel it. It should be palatable and I just think so much of this is learning by osmosis and just being together. And so for me, I never questioned it. That was always the way we were going to go.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of one or the other. Like you really like that buzz. You're like, you know what, we're totally cool remote. It'll be interesting to see how that pans out in the next couple of years as COVID starts to die down a little bit in the pandemic, of course. That's fascinating. That's a good word. We're going to end on that. Oh yeah, so Graham Gonzalez says, "Oh man, the perks." I think people are going to flock to that. I think in ways
Yes.
you have to make your office attractive
Yeah.
for people to want to come in this day and age. And I can't wait to get up there. So when you get there, let me know. I'll make a trip up to Omaha and we'll check out the facility. That'll be phenomenal. All right, everybody. Well, listen, this is the end of the show. We're coming up on 30 minutes. It's just crazy how fast it goes. Liz, thanks for being on the show today. Appreciate it.
Thank you. This was fun.
Hope you'll come back and see us real soon. And everybody else, make sure you come back tomorrow for episode 100 of Standing Out with my good friend Charlie Saffer. I'm going to be hosting that. And thanks to all my guests who have made this possible, including you, Liz. Really appreciate that. And those for in the comments today. Appreciate you guys being here as well. We'll see you guys tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. for Standing Out, daily podcast about sales, marketing, and leadership. See you guys. Thanks, Liz.
Thank you.